So I heard many, many people. I heard the young Ashkenazi, which was, it was so dazzling. He was, he was the first pianist I ever heard. I was 5 years old, and he was 16 and already quite famous in Russia, and touring, And then I heard him here when I was a little more aware of what piano playing was like. I think I was 19 and he was 30, something like that, and he played all 4 Rachmaninoff concertos in 4 nights, one after the other. I don't think he dropped one note in all 4 nights. It was incredible. It was so frightening. What a fabulous pianist.
The repertoire that you've chosen over the years is very broad. You've played Haydn and Chopin and Beethoven. You've also had works that were written for you that you introduced. Is there music that you haven't played yet that you would like to?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. I'm just starting to learn a little more Schubert, because I've always been scared of playing Schubert because I think it's so difficult to get that right. Not like Beethoven. I think with Schubert there's kind of a narrow range of error, even though he's so great. So I was always afraid, but I think now I'm getting old, and I think if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So it's time to try and play some. I'm hoping, I've got a couple of commissions coming up, and I'm hoping that those will turn out to be wonderful. I'm sure they will. So I'm learning stuff all the time. There's a lot of Beethoven and Chopin and Haydn and Schumann that I haven't played yet. Like all pianists, we do have to pick and choose. The repertoire is so enormous that I think only Arau and Andras Schiff play everything. But I don't think anybody else does. And Garrick Olson, my friend Garrick Olson, he literally plays everything. And this is a guy who plays the Busoni piano concerto. And he's amazing.
And a terrific fellow, too.
Yes.
He's done some projects for WQXR, similar to what you've done for the
CBC.
For the CBC.
Yeah. Yes.
You did a project which is available, not, you have to order it, but I believe it's there, a project called Concertos.
The Concerto According to Manny, they called it, which is a funny name. But
it was not just about Beethoven, it was about piano concertos.
No, it was 10 different piano concertos.
And you got to pick them.
Yes,
right?
Yes, to some degree. I had the gentleman who was interviewing me, Eric Friesen. He said, "Well, you can't do it without this or this." So
Right. But what do you learn about music in talking about it, in teaching it? In an instance of a project like that, when you sort of have to organize and make real some of the unconscious thoughts that you may have about a piece.
Yeah, I think maybe to some degree you focus things that you had already known, maybe. And of course, everything that we talked about was very much off the top of my head at the time, and so it's all subject to change. But you start, I think to some degree, you start thinking about why there are 3 movements to a piece. Why is this movement in this concerto instead of another concerto? And sometimes you can actually find reasons. The Brahms B-flat is an example. We talked about that a little bit. And I was actually able to trace a little pattern, a 2-note pattern, which happens in every movement over and over and over, which led me to believe that maybe that's why these movements go together, that kind of, sometimes you find things like, there's one particular spot in the Beethoven 5 which led me to believe that the Brahms B-flat is a copy of Beethoven 5, and so when you find one spot that you think, gee, that's really, he stole that. in a not stole, and of course that's the wrong word. He was inspired by that to somehow use it in the same place in the movement, and then you start thinking about other connections, that sort of thing. It's nothing earth-shaking. I mean, nothing,
Well, it's your way into the music, and that's what
I guess, yeah.
So it's you showing us around this particular room.
but it's certainly not Einstein level or anything like that.
Well,
it's just.
But it's you, and that's what I think makes it special and really wonderful. You've had wonderful partnerships through the years too that you've continued. Tell me about meeting and getting to know and working with Yo-Yo Ma.
Well, Yo-Yo and I met 36 or 37 years ago. We were both students at Juilliard, and we met in the cafeteria. And I had known about him because I used to work for Leonard Rose in his studio.
The cellist.
Right. Leonard Rose, who was a famous cellist, member of the Stern, Rosie, Stomin trio. And when he was teaching at Juilliard, I was working as accompanist for Dorothy DeLay and for him, 3 days a week, just to playing by the hour for all the cello and violin lessons, to make money, basically. And he was a very kind man. He would always tell me about this amazing kid that he was teaching, who at the time I think he was 12 or 13. Named Yo-Yo Ma. And at the time, there were not so many Asian students at Juilliard, nothing like there are now. And so I actually never believed that anyone was named Yo-Yo Ma. It was it was a very weird name, actually, at that time. Cellists were named Leonard Rose or Emanuel Feuermann or Mstislav Rostropovich,
right.
But
normal names.
Not a toy or so, not so. And then one day, we saw at Carnegie Recital Hall, which is now Weill Hall, the little hall at Carnegie, there was an announcement of Yo-Yo Ma is giving his debut recital. And Mr. Rose said, "Oh, listen, you have to go to that. You've got to hear him." And in fact, my then friend and I, my wife now, we went together to this concert. I think I was 18 or 19. He was 15, I think. And it was one of the most unbelievable events of my life. It must have been like hearing Heifetz at 17. That kind of incredible, eye-opening and confounding ability. And I just remember saying, I would give anything if someday I can work with this kid. And then we met, I guess a year later, just at the cafeteria eating tuna sandwiches, and we kind of hit it off and played a couple of benefit concerts, wound up with the same management, and sort of said, well, why don't we play a couple of concerts? And it just started that way, and we kind of became a regular partnership. So
it's persisted. It's continued.
Yeah, we're still going on with this. And it's been an incredibly wonderful part of my life. It's just I can't imagine actually not having that in my life. It's really an important and big part of it.